Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we will be looking at the multi-store model, which you need to know for AQA A-level psychology in the subtopic of memory. I hope you enjoy this video and find it helpful. Let's get started. The multi-store model, MSM, was proposed by Atkinson and Shiffrin in 1968. It was the first attempt to create a theoretical model of human memory and described memory of linear process with 3 unitary stores. The model suggested that memory is made up of 3 components: sensory register, SR, short-term memory, STM, and long-term memory, LTM. According to the model, memories are formed sequentially and information passes from one component to the next, in a linear fashion. Each of the 3 components has specific type of coding: the way in which information is changed and stored in memory, capacity, the amount of information that can be stored, and duration, the length of time that information is held in the memory. Information enters the sensory register, which is not under cognitive control, from the environment via our senses. Everything we hear, see, touch, taste, and smell. Our sensory register has an unknown but supposedly unlimited capacity and a very limited duration of between 1/20th second to 2 seconds, approximately 250 milliseconds, Sperling 1960, before the trace decays and is forgotten. The SR allows information to be retained long enough to allow a decision as to whether it is worth processing further. Information enters from all 5 senses. The coding is modality specific and said to be raw, or unprocessed, information. There are 2 common types of sensory memory that can be researched: vision, visual memory, iconic memory, and hearing, auditory sensory memory, echoic memory. Information that is attended to is passed to STM, where it is temporarily stored. Information in our STM arrives in a raw form, sound or vision. It is then encoded into a form that STM can more easily deal with. Information can be coded visually, eyesight, and semantically, meaning, but is mainly coded acoustically, hearing, Baddeley 1966. Information is still vulnerable to being forgotten due to limited duration, decay, or being displaced by new incoming information due to limited capacity, displacement, and therefore a rehearsal loop can be undertaken to keep the memory trace active by continually reinserting it into the STM rehearsal loop, repeating the information over and over again in your head. STM has a limited capacity of 7+/-2 chunks of information, meaning 5 to 9 items. Miller, 1956 plus Jacobs, 1887. STM has a limited duration of approximately 20 to 30 seconds, after which the memory decays. Peterson and Peterson, 1959. If a longer, more elaborative and purposeful period of rehearsal takes place, then the memory can be transferred to the long-term memory, LTM, where memories are theoretically only temporarily inaccessible due to retrieval failure and interference. Information can be retrieved from LTM through information passing back through STM. LTM has an unlimited capacity and a lifetime's duration. Barrick 1975. Information in LTM is coded semantically, by meaning, Baddeley 1966, and can be retrieved from LTM to STM when required. The multi-store model has several strengths and limitations. A strength of the MSM is that there is an extensive amount of research to support the different components of the MSM. For example, research by Miller, 1956, supports the idea that our STM has a capacity of 7+/-2 chunks of information. Baddeley, 1966, supports the notion of different types of encoding in STM and LTM. Peterson and Peterson, 1959, support the idea of a limited duration in STM, and Barrick, 1975, supports the idea of an unlimited duration in LTM. This is a strength because it suggests that the multi-store model is well-founded on a substantial body of research, reinforcing the validity and reliability of its various components. The amount of diverse studies provide a strong empirical basis for understanding how memory functions across different stages, enhancing our comprehension of cognitive processes. A strength of the multi-store model is that there is case study evidence to support the distinction between STM and LTM. Chalice and Warrington, 1970, carried out a case study of patient KF, who was injured in a motorcycle accident. Following his accident, KF could recall stored information from his LTM, however KF had a severely impaired STM. This is a strength because this dissociation suggests that STM and LTM are separate distinct systems. However, KF had a severely impaired STM, particularly for verbal, acoustic, information, when KF read digits himself, compared to visual information, when someone else read digits to KF, suggesting selective impairment and indicating that different types of information may be processed and stored differently within STM. This is a limitation because it suggests that STM may not be as unitary as the model proposes. Instead, it indicates that there could be multiple subsystems within STM that handle different types of information, such as verbal and visual data, separately. However, KF's case challenged MSM of memory, which posited that information must pass through STM to reach LTM. KF's intact LTM despite impaired STM suggested alternative pathways for information storage. This is a limitation because it suggests that the linear progression from STM to LTM, as proposed in MSM, may not fully capture the complexity and flexibility of how information is processed and stored in memory systems. A strength of MSM is that there is brain scan evidence to show that there are different areas of the brain active when performing STM and LTM tasks. The hippocampus and subiculum have been found to be active when performing STM tasks, and the motor cortex has been found to be active when performing LTM tasks. The hippocampus being found to be involved in transferring short-term memories into long-term memories. This is a strength because it suggests that the MSM's framework has a biological basis with neurological evidence supporting the idea that different brain regions are specialized for different memory functions, which reinforces the model's validity. A limitation is that research supporting the MSM use artificial materials. For example, researchers often asked participants to recall digits, letters, and sometimes words. In everyday life we form memories related to all sorts of useful things: people's faces, their names, facts, places, etc. This means that although research findings may reflect how memory works with meaningless material in lab testing, it does not reflect how memory works in everyday life. This is a limitation because it suggests that the research findings may not accurately represent how memory functions in our daily lives, as people tend to remember more meaningful and relevant information. This discrepancy challenges the generalizability of the model to real-world memory processes and highlights the need for further research that considers a broader range of memory contexts and stimuli. A limitation of the MSM is that there is evidence to suggest that MSM oversimplifies LTM. For example, Tulving, 1972, introduced the concept of different types of LTM, episodic and semantic memory. Episodic memory involves the recollection of personal experiences, while semantic memory pertains to general knowledge and facts. This is a limitation because this distinction suggests that LTM is not a single, uniform store as proposed by the MSM, but rather a system with multiple components that serve different functions. This complexity goes beyond the MSM's simplistic view of LTM, limiting MSM's explanatory power. A strength of MSM is that there is research evidence to support that STM and LTM are separate stores. Murdoch, 1962, conducted a study on serial position effect. He aimed to investigate how the position of a word in a list affects its likelihood of being recalled. In order to understand the mechanisms of STM and LTM, Murdoch used a sample of university students. Participants were presented with a list of words at a constant rate, e.g., 1 word per second. Lists varied in length but typically contained 10 to 40 words. After the presentation of the list, participants were asked to recall as many words as they could, in any order, free recall. Murdoch found a distinct pattern in the recall of words, which he termed the serial position effect. This effect is characterized by primacy effect. Higher recall for words at the beginning of the list. The first few words are more likely to be transferred into long-term memory because they receive more attention and rehearsal. Recency effect. Higher recall for words at the end of the list. The last few words are still in short-term memory at the time of recall, making them easier to retrieve, and middle items, Words in the middle of the list were recalled less frequently. These words are neither rehearsed enough to move into long-term memory nor are they fresh in short-term memory. Murdoch's study provided strong evidence for the distinction between short-term and long-term memory. It showed that memory is not a single process but involves multiple stages with different characteristics. This is a strength because it suggests that STM and LTM are separate and distinct systems as suggested by MSM and has real-world application in educational practices as it suggests that the order in which information is presented can affect learning and recall, e.g. placing important information at the beginning and end of a lesson could enhance retention. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content like this. Bye.